So let's start today in child's pose, but today's child's pose, let's bring the knees and the feet all the way together. So a lot of times we do big toes together, knees apart, keep the knees and the feet all the way together. So when you come down onto your mat, knees are touching, inner edges of the feet are touching, and then you sit back, forehead down, and arms can be out in front of you. So this is a traditional version of child's pose. It may feel different because now that we have this Western version of yoga, we typically always teach with the big toes together and the knees apart. So just observe to see how it's different in your body. There are some advantages to this one over the other child's pose, and that's for the lower back. So the torso is completely supported on the thighs, and that's a nice way to give the lower back a little bit more protection and support, especially if you're ever having any issues there. This is a good child's pose to take rather than the other one if given the option. Given the option of child's pose, it's up to you to do the child's pose that works best in your body, and you always stand behind that. So arms out in front of you, start to crawl the fingertips forward, keep the forehead resting, and you could move the head side to side a little bit, right to left, just slow, massaging that pressure point in the forehead. Start to find stillness. So as you're reaching forward, shoulders are in place. So if it feels like the shoulders are going up toward the top of the mat, bring them more back toward the hips. Start to take a deep breath in through the nose. Softly out of the mouth, keep it long. Deep breath in through the nose, fill all the way up. Softly out of the mouth, let it go. Deep breath in. Slow breath out through the mouth. This time in and out through the nose. Breathe in through the nose. Make that same ha sound with the lips closed. Keep going. Ujjayi breath. Starting to memorize this sound for your practice so that you notice faster when you lose sight of it and come back to it quicker. Or maybe you don't lose sight of it at all and you can stay with it the whole time. And start to lift the head, walk the hands in. So you're coming to kneeling if your body's okay with that, sitting back onto the heels, tops of the feet are on the mat. If you're not okay with it, just come to seated and you can do everything else. So reach the arms forward all the way up, bend the right elbow, just grab for the right elbow, starting to get into the right side shoulder area, maybe even the right tricep. So sometimes when we're in this shape, we want to puff out the front ribs. See if you can hug the lowest front ribs in and still press down to the hips and rise up through the crown of the head. So going for length instead of arching the back too much. Belly hugs in. Then reach the arms all the way back up and you'll switch sides. Bend that left elbow, grab for the left elbow. See what's happening with that left shoulder. Breathing into it. Reach the arms all the way back up, hands down to the mat, separate the knees to hip width distance apart so they're not touching. We'll do a few rounds of cat-cow breath. If you want to change the hands and get into the wrists, you're welcome to. You can turn the fingertips out to the sides of the mat. Some of you might feel comfortable bringing the fingertips all the way back so they point toward the knees. On an inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. And on the exhale, rounding the whole spine. Eyes open or closed. Keep going on your own. Follow your breath. These are always really nice to do at the beginning of your practice, not only to warm up the spine, but to link the breath with the movement. One more, forward and back. Turn the hands back around if you switched the direction of the fingertips. And from here, step the right foot back behind you. Fire up that right leg. So feel like the outer right hip is hugging in toward the midline. Chest is still reaching forward. Fingers are spread wide on the mat. Lift the right leg up just to hip height, maybe even lower, but try not to go higher. All 5 toes on the right foot are pointing down so you don't open up the hip. Core's hugging in, reach the left arm forward, just to shoulder height, like you're going to shake someone's hand. Get as long as you can on your inhale. On the exhale, scoop the belly around the spine, elbow to knee. So similar to cat-cow. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl, bring it in. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. 2 more. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Last one. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Extend the left arm and the right leg. Left hand comes down to the mat. Right toes come down to the mat. Spin that right heel down flat. Walk it back so the left toes point to the arch of the right foot. Left hand can come out to the left. Right arm reaches up for a modified side plank. So you're opening up the chest, hugging the outer hips in, lifting the lower belly. Maybe the right leg floats up. It doesn't have to, only if it's feeling okay today. Right toes point straight forward. They're not going up. And if you're good here, stay here. Another option, you could turn that right palm to face forward and reach the right arm up and over. So this is if you're feeling stable and confident in your modified side plank. If it's getting wobbly, this will make it worse. Right hand comes down to the mat. Right knee comes down to the mat. Back to tabletop. So shoulders and wrists are stacked and hips over knees. Left toes step back behind you. Level off the hips. So if you feel like the hips are opening up to the left, can you level them off? Then lift the left leg up just to hip height. Feel the whole leg working. Core already starting to work. Get light in the right hand. And when you're ready, reach the right arm forward. Inhale for a little bit more length. Exhale, curl, elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. 2 more. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Last one. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Get that left foot up as high as you can. Inhale, extend. Right hand comes down. Left toes come down. Spin the left heel down flat and then walk the foot back. Right toes point to the arch of the left foot. Right hand out to the side. Gives you a wider base. Left arm reaches up. Modified side plank. So start to squeeze those outer hips in, get long through the whole body. Maybe that left leg lifts up to hip height, left toes point straight forward. You can also get a little bit more engagement in that left inner thigh with the toes pointing forward. If you're good here, stay here or turn the left palm to face forward and start to stretch the arm over the ear. Left hand starts to come back down to the mat, back to tabletop, knees and hands down. So keep the hips right over the knees. They'll want to come forward for this next one. Walk the hands forward like downward facing dog. hug the belly in, and we start to bring the forehead down to the mat. So getting a little deeper into the upper body, shoulders area with this back bend. And sometimes this pose can be uncomfortable. It's puppy dog is what we call it. You could widen the hands, especially if you're feeling any tingling in the hands. If you do a wider positioning of the hands, that sometimes helps. If it's bothering a shoulder, that shoulder, you just reach that arm back. You can just do one arm. You could also just not reach the arms as far forward, flare out the elbows, maybe the hands stack on one on top of the other. That's another great version of it. But you want the spine to be long. Sometimes we lose control of the navel, and we want to tone it a little bit so that the lower back stays nice and long as we're opening up the upper body. Then start to lift the head, come down onto your stomach. So you can bring the forearms down to the mat, walk the feet back, set the hips down onto the mat, left forearm in front of the face, bend the right leg, reach back, grab for that right foot. You can rest the head on top of the forearm. And as you bring that right foot in, make sure the right knee is pointing straight back. So sometimes it wants to go out to the right. Think about if you were standing, the knees would be side by side. And you'll switch sides. Right forearm in front of the face, bend the left leg. See if the foot's there. If it's not, you can skip it and just rest the head on the forearms or the hands. Release that left foot. Bring the hands down by the lower ribs, tops of the feet pressed down. Come up for a cobra. So you already did a back bend. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more open. Exhale, release. We'll do two more. Tailbone points back, tops of the feet are heavy. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Last one. Inhale up, Bhujangasana. Exhale, release. Come back to hands and knees. Hands are ahead of the shoulders. Tuck the toes, lift the hips. Downward facing dog. Any movement you want, or maybe a wider stance with the feet. Just make sure the feet are at least hip width distance apart. So they're definitely not touching. Then looking forward, step the right foot up between the hands. Coming into a runner's lunge, but we'll set the back knee down for this one. Up to you if you tuck the back toes or if you rest the top of the foot on the mat. One hand at a time up to this front thigh. Peel the chest away from the thighs or the front thigh. Reach the arms forward, palms facing up. Left arm on top of right arm and grab for the shoulders. So you're bringing the elbows down toward the chest. Ears are moving away from the shoulders, and you're trying to spread those shoulder blades across the back. Those inner thighs are scissoring a little bit so you feel nice and stable in the lower body and still have a little bit of a lift of the lower belly. Then reach the arms all the way up, shoulders down the back, hands come down to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, left hand down, right arm up for a twist. Right hand comes down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. Left foot steps up between the hands, set the back knee down, one hand at a time to the front thigh, start to push the chest away from the thigh, reach the arms forward, just halfway, palms up. This time, right arm on top of left, grab for the shoulder blades, elbows down. So same thing, other side, you're spreading those shoulder blades apart, neck is long because the ears are away from the shoulders. Scissoring of the inner thighs. Core strong. Then release the arms, reach the arms all the way up, shoulders down the back, neck long. Hands come down to the mat, right hand underneath the right shoulder, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, left arm reaches up, find your twist. Right ear still away from the right shoulder, so make sure it's not crawling forward. Top of the right thigh is lifting. Sometimes it wants to go down toward the mat. Left hand comes down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, bend the knees, look forward, walk the feet up to the hands. Take your time, go slow with this one. Coming into a forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. 2 more like that. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. This time, circle the arms all the way up to standing. Bring the palms together overhead and down in front of the heart. Interlace the fingers behind the back, stretch the knuckles back behind you, shoulders still away from the ears. Put a little bit of a bend in the knees as you're standing here, and then start to fold forward over the legs. If the shoulders are open enough, keep the weaving of the fingers. Knuckles just go back behind the head. And as you come down over the legs, you can keep the chest resting on the thighs or work towards straighter legs. Just listen to the back side of the legs to see what they need. Still pulling the shoulders away from the ears. See if you can switch the weaving of the fingers. So bring the other index finger in front. Keep things even. Hands come down to the mat. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway, chaturanga. You choose Cobra or maybe up dog. Exhale back, downward facing dog. So we're getting into the shoulders today. I always love feeling this in upward facing dog or your Cobra to see if you have any more space there. So we've done a few shoulder openings. Maybe pay attention to that for the next Surya A. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, maybe lightly hop if you're ready for that. Feet at the top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, forward fold all the way down. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Shift forward onto the toes, bend the elbows halfway, chaturanga. Come to the tops of the feet, Cobra or up dog, chest wide. Plenty of control of the shoulders. Exhale back, downward facing dog. And even in downward facing dog, shoulders are moving away from the ears, so the neck is long and free. And then it's like you're trying to widen the shoulder blades across the back, but you squeeze those upper arms in toward one another, pressing down into the inner edge of the hand, index finger, thumb side of the hand, but all 10 fingertips are strong. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga. Tops of the feet for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Let's do one more cycle of Surya A. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down on your exhale, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, down dog. From here, step the right foot up between the hands. Come back to that runner's lunge, but set the back knee down again. Let's keep those back toes tucked if your feet are okay with it. And then one hand at a time up to this front thigh, peel the chest away from the thigh. Reach the arms forward, palms facing up, left arm on top of right, eagle arms. So you could stay with the hands on the shoulders if the shoulders feel too tight. Maybe the backs of the forearms to come together, or maybe you take the right fingertips inside of the left hand. Scissor those inner thighs. Keep that lifting of the upper body, elbows in line with the shoulders. Shoulders still moving away from the ears, so you're feeling some space and width across the upper back. Scissor those inner thighs. Try to fire up the feet. Can you hover the back knee away from the mat? So think about lifting the upper body up and then the legs. You're hovering the back knee and then come to crescent, but keep the eagle arms. So back leg can be as straight as you want it to be, but maybe you keep a little bit of a bend if you're feeling like you're getting more space in the lower back hips area. You can stay right here, or maybe you start to reach the forearms up, and that's a deeper opening across the upper back. It'll also challenge your balance a little bit. And slowly bring the elbows back in line with the shoulders if you took that. Straighten the front leg. Go slow. So both legs will be straight. Send that right knee straight forward back to your lunge. So it's crescent with eagle arms. Then release the arms down by the sides. Reach them all the way back up. Crescent pose. Hands come down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Hold plank pose. Once you get to plank pose, come to forearm plank. So one forearm at a time, bring the forearms down to the mat. Feet at least hip width distance apart. You could go a little wider. Move both heels over to the left. Reach the right arm up. So forearm side plank. Left hand can come in as much as you want to give yourself more space in that shoulder. But legs are scissoring together and the feet are staggered. Right forearm comes down, switch sides. Both heels go over to the right. Left arm reaches up. Keep that strength in the legs. Lengthen the spine. Left forearm comes down to the mat. One hand at a time, back up to plank pose. Set the knees down onto the mat. So now you're in tabletop. Walk the hands forward like downward facing dog. Hug the belly in. Bring the forehead down. So we're back to puppy dog. Then lift the head back up. Tuck the toes. Lift the knees. Downward facing dog. So puppy dog to down dog. Left foot steps up between the hands. Set that right knee down. Keep the back toes tucked. Bring the hands up to the front thigh. Start to lift the chest. Reach the arms forward, palms facing up. This time, left arm on top of right. Eagle arms, whatever version's working. Shoulders move away from the ears, hands right over the elbows. Keep the shoulders in line with keep the elbows in line with the shoulders. Start to scissor the inner thighs, lifting the core, lifting the upper body. And then see, as you press into both feet, can you hover the back knee away from the mat? Stay low, and then start to work your way up to your version of crescent pose in the legs, which might mean you still keep a bend in the back knee. Stay here, or maybe the forearms start to reach up if you want a deeper stretch across the upper back and you feel open enough for that. Elbows back in line with the shoulders. Play with straightening both legs. So front leg too. You have your arms in front of your face, so it definitely messes with your balance. Come back to that lunge in the front knee. Release the arms down by the sides. Reach the arms all the way up, crescent pose. And hands come back down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. One forearm at a time, forearm plank. Feet hip width or wider. Bring both heels over to the left this time. Right arm reaches up. Right forearm down, both heels over to the right. Left arm reaches up. Left forearm comes back down, forearm plank. One hand at a time, back to plank pose. Knees down, belly hugs in. We want those hips right over the knees, so you might need to shift the hips back a little bit. Walk the hands forward, forehead down. Puppy dog. Belly hugs in, spine long. Down dog. Hands maybe already are in place. You can look forward, tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, bring the feet up between the hands, forward fold, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back down. Bend the knees, come into chair pose, Utkatasana. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, Utkatasana chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, little different. Step the left foot back for warrior one. So seal the heel down, square the hips forward, reach the arms forward and up. Bend in that front knee. Forward facing warrior, squaring everything as best we can. It's never going to be perfect. Then arms reach back behind you, option to interlace them. If they don't want to interlace, then you just keep pressing the palms together, arms reaching back. They interlace, great, fold forward wherever you are, humble warrior. So you go as deep as you want to go. You can rest the chest on top of the thigh, or maybe you wiggle the right side rib cage inside the thigh. Just keep the bend in that front knee, shoulders still away from the ears. Back up, warrior one, release the interlacing of the fingers, reach the arms all the way up. Try to square everything forward. Hands come down to the mat and you come onto the ball of the back foot. Step the left foot forward to meet the right. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Right foot steps back. Warrior one, take your time, find your footing, then reach the arms forward and up. Back leg is as straight as you can get it, and then you find a deep lunge in the front leg. This time we'll reach the arms back behind us. If you're interlacing, do one finger over. Open up across the chest, fold forward, find humble warrior. And slowly rise back up. Virabhadrasana 1. Make sure the arms are free on the way back up. Hands down to the mat. Come onto the ball of the back foot. Step that right foot forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Up to you how you get back to downward facing dog. You could take a vinyasa, or you can go straight there, or do something else if something else is calling to you. That's fine too. Right foot steps up between the hands. Set that back knee down. Reach the arms forward. Left arm on top of right. Eagle arms. Keep the elbows in line with the shoulders. Scissor those inner thighs. Back toes are tucked. Press into both feet. Start to hover the back knee low away from the mat. And then once you feel confident, come up to crescent pose. Maybe the forearms reach up. Maybe if you reach the forearms up, bring the elbows back in line with the shoulders. Start to reach forward with your eagle arms. So you're hovering over this front thigh. Try warrior 3 with your eagle arms. So shift the weight forward to that front foot, lift the back leg. Take this to eagle. Stand tall on that right leg. Cross the left leg high up over the right leg. Arms are already there. Then bring the hands together in front of the heart like prayer. Step the feet side by side, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Just step back to plank pose. Stay there. One forearm at a time, forearm plank. Feet wide enough so that you can bring both heels over to the left, reach the right arm up, forearm side plank. You could turn that top palm to face forward and stretch it over the ear. Right forearm comes down, back onto the balls of the feet, over to the other side, heels to the right, left arm reaches up. Maybe you turn that top palm to face forward and stretch it over the ear, get long. Left forearm comes down to the mat. This time, hands come to the mat, back to plank pose, knees to the mat. Bring the hips right over the knees, so you might need to scoot back. Forearms come down to the mat. Walk the elbows ahead of the shoulders, and now bring the head down to the mat. So it's a different puppy dog. Forearms are down, elbows and hands. If it's not working, you can stay on the hands. Good. Start to lift the head, stack the shoulders over the elbows so hips do come forward. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, forearm plank, one hand at a time, plank pose, down dog. Left foot steps up between the hands. Set the back knee down. Keep those back toes tucked, one hand at a time up to this front thigh. Reach the arms forward, right arm on top of left. Eagle arms, Garudasana. Elbows in line with the shoulders, shoulders away from the ears. Start to scissor the inner thighs, press into both feet, hover that back knee away from the mat. Up to crescent, keep the eagle arms. Maybe the eagle arms reach up. Elbows back in line with the shoulders. Start to reach forward with the eagle arms, hovering the chest low over that front thigh. Keep reaching forward, warrior 3. You can always hop that back foot in a couple of times. Keep the right toes pointing down, forearms reaching forward. Eagle when you're ready. Take your time. Come up to standing on that left leg. Then it's like chair pose, and you cross that right leg as high up as you can on the left thigh. Right toes can kick out. They can touch the ground like a kickstand, or maybe you can hook the toes behind the left leg. Hands together like prayer. Keep the chest open. Should feel good. That way you can just focus on the legs. And then chair pose. Right foot next to the left. Reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. One forearm at a time, forearm plank. Feet are wide enough so you can bring both heels over to the right, lift the left arm up, forearm side plank. Maybe you reach the arm over the ear. You don't have to. Left forearm comes down, heels over to the left. Right arm reaches up and over. Right forearm down to the mat, forearm plank. Then one hand at a time, back to plank pose, knees down to the mat. Shift the hips back till they're right over the knees. Bring the forearms down to the mat. Walk the elbows forward ahead of the shoulders. Forehead comes down. This is your back bend, puppy dog. Lift the head up. Start to shift the hips forward till you're stacking the shoulders over the elbows. Toes are tucked, lift the knees, forearm plank, one hand at a time, plank pose. So hands are right underneath the shoulders, lift the hips up and back. So we'll play with that flow one more time, adding on. Step the right foot up between the hands, set the back knee down. Reach the arms forward, just halfway, palms up, left arm on top of right, eagle arms, but don't reach the arms up, just keep them right in line. So elbows in line with the shoulders, shoulders away from the ears. Scissor the inner thighs, press into both feet, hover that back knee away from the mat. You stay there for a breath, and then you rise up, crescent pose. Maybe the forearms reach up, they don't have to. Elbows back in line with the shoulders. What we did earlier, straighten the front leg, keep that engagement of the outer hips going into the midline. Then back to crescent, reach forward with the forearms. Keep reaching forward with the forearms, warrior 3. Lift from the inner left thigh on that left side. Eagle pose. Come to standing strong on that right leg, cross the left leg high up over the right, Garudasana. Hands come together like prayer, just focus on the legs, give the upper body a break, and then start to hover forward. Keep pressing into the hands, and you'll turn the chest to the left, hooking this right elbow outside of the left thigh. So you're coming into a twist with the eagle legs. Looking down will help your balance, but you could look to the left if you're feeling good. Back to center with the chest. Set that left foot down, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold, straighten the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, pause. One forearm at a time, forearm plank. Heels over to the right, reach the left arm up. Left arm up and over the head, maybe. Left forearm down to the mat, heels over to the left this time. Right arm reaches up and maybe up and over. Right forearm down to the mat. Walk the feet in dolphin pose. So you press down to the forearms and the hands, hug the core in, and you just keep walking the feet in until the body tells you that's enough. Start to walk the feet back to forearm plank. One hand at a time, plank pose. Down dog. Other side, left foot steps up between the hands. Set the back knee down. Reach the arms forward, palms up. Left arm, right arm on top of left, sorry. Eagle arms. Elbows in line with the shoulders. Scissor those inner thighs, lift the lower belly, start to lift that back knee, just hovering it away from the mat. And then come up, crescent pose with the eagle arms. Maybe the forearms keep going and lifting up. If you lifted them up, bring the elbows back in line with the shoulders. Still keeping the shoulders away from the ears. Straighten the front leg, squeezing those outer hips in toward the midline. Left knee goes straight forward, back to your crescent with eagle arms. Start to fold forward, reaching forward, transitioning to Virabhadrasana 3. Take your time, go slow so you find that strength to get in the pose. Eagle when you're ready. Full Garudasana. Right leg crosses high up over the left thigh. Hands together like prayer, right in front of the heart. Keep the chest open, shoulders down the back. Start to lean forward over the legs and then twist to the right. Tap the elbow, hook the elbow, whatever's feeling good on this side. Looking down or to the right if you're feeling like you want more of a challenge. Back to center with the upper body, feet side by side, chair pose. Last little bit. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Stay there. One forearm at a time, forearm plank. Feet over to the left, right arm reaches up. Maybe right arm up and over the ear. Right forearm down, forearm plank, heels to the right, left arm reaches up, maybe up and over the ear, forearm plank, dolphin. Lift the hips, walk the feet in. So the chest goes back. You want it to be behind the elbows if you can, shoulders behind the elbows. And then you walk the feet in, hugging the belly in, and you're trying to get as much weight as you can into the legs. Push down as strongly as you can with the forearms and the hands. Getting into that part of the spine right behind the chest. Slowly walk the feet back to forearm plank. One hand at a time, plank pose. Down dog. Child's pose. Take whatever child's pose you want. So you could do big toes together, knees apart. That might feel really good at this point in your practice. Forehead down. Arms could be forward unless you feel like it would be more relaxing to bring the arms back behind you, which that might be the case at this point. We've done a lot of upper body today. Strengthening and opening. And maybe you move the head side to side. Steadying the heart rate. Good, back to center. And then come to tabletop. So bring the hands down underneath you, walk the hands forward in front of the shoulders, knees are hip width distance apart. So hips right over the knees. We'll play with puppy dog, but we'll go a little bit further if you're open for that. Bring the forearms down to the mat. Walk the elbows forward ahead of the shoulders. Forehead comes down to the mat. Hug the belly in, get that long spine. Stay here, or maybe the hands come together like prayer and back behind the head. And if that's all feeling great and you want to stay here, play with walking the elbows more forward so you get more length in the sides of the torso and the arms. The shoulder blades are widening across the back. Upper arms are hugging in instead of splaying out. And if you have the hands back behind the head, bring the hands back down to the mat. Forearms down to the mat, lifting the head. And one hand at a time, back to tabletop. Bring the feet over to one side and just come to seated on the mat. So hips down and feet down. And then you'll extend the left leg out in front of you, step the right foot over the left leg. You can keep the left leg extended out in front of you, or you can bend the left leg if that feels okay. We're just coming into a twist, but we want this sole of the right foot to be pressing down on the mat. Open the chest to the right. You can either grab this right knee and bring it in, pressing down into the sit bones. So the right knee and the left arm are pressing into one another, and you're pressing into the sit bones at the same time to sit up as tall as you can. Then you find your twist, looking back in the direction that you're twisting in. So over the right shoulder. Keep the body in the twist. Just start to bring the gaze back forward so everything stays the same. Unwind the chest. You could grab this outer right ankle, moving the foot to the side, coming into Gomukhasana legs. You can also, if it's too much, just extend the bottom leg and just come into half of it. And if that's not working, sole the right foot inside of the left leg. So you just keep backing out of it until you feel like you can be in this pose for several breaths. So sitting up tall, maybe you're good here and you're feeling enough of a hip opening. Some of you might want to walk the hands forward and start to put more weight on the hip opening, folding forward over the legs. You can close the eyes. If you need a place to put the chin because you're low, you can hook it over that top knee. Keeping both hips down. Focusing on your breath. Even here, toward the end of your practice, trying to keep that same quality of breath that we started with. This is when you really need it. Getting into the hips, such a tight area, and the legs, such a tight area of the body. And one that takes a good solid 5 to 8 quality breaths to begin to open. And you'll start to walk the hands in. Bring the hands back behind you. Extend the bottom leg, then the top leg. Bring the soles of the feet to the mat wide, so feet are wide, and then you can let the knees go side to side like windshield wipers. And we'll come back into the other side. So extend the legs out in front of you. This time, bringing the left foot in, stepping that over the right leg. Left foot stays down on the mat. Keep it down. Maybe you lean over to the right and you bring the bottom leg in. You don't have to. Just make sure you're not sitting on the foot. You want both hips down. Left fingertips back behind you. Maybe you wrap this right arm around the bent leg, pressing the arm and the leg into one another, sitting up tall on your sit bones, and slowly starting to gaze back behind you, coming into your twist. Left shoulder away from the ear, but starting to crawl up. Keep the body, just bring the gaze back forward, nice and slow, feeling a little bit of a release on the neck. Then unwind the upper body. You can keep the legs in this shape and go a little deeper if you want to, bringing that left foot out to the right. Just make sure you're still not sitting on this right foot. It's so hard to figure out right and left. I probably shouldn't even use that in the first place. All right, sit up tall. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you start to fold forward over the legs. So find where your hip opening is on this side. Remember, you can always extend the bottom leg so it can be straight out in front of you. You just do the top leg bent, or maybe you take Janu Shirshasana, left foot inside of the right leg. Closing the eyes, staying with your Ujjayi breath. And seeing where this hold takes you. So you are putting some effort into it, but as your body begins to open, it'll pull you deeper without much effort. You're also warm. We've opened up all these muscles. So it's nice to explore these twisty, pretzel-y poses at the end. And just be amazed at all the shapes we can make with our own body. And grateful that it's an option. All right, we'll start to come out, walk the hands in, and then bring the hands back behind you, lean back, extend the bottom leg, then the top leg, feet out wide to the outer edges of the mat. Keep the feet wide. Let's move the knees side to side. And we'll come back to seated with the legs extended out in front of us. Coming into Pashimotanasana, seated forward fold. On an inhale, reach the arms up. On the exhale, fold down over the legs. Make sure the hands rest on something, whether that's the legs or the mat, or maybe the feet, but you don't want to take the shoulders with you to grab the feet. So we've talked about the shoulders a lot today. Make sure they're not going up toward the ears so that you can reach the feet. And a good way to check that is the arms maybe have a little bit of a bend. And if the feet are never accessible, that could be a lot of things. The backside of the body could be tight. You also just might have shorter arms or really long legs. And you'll come back up to seated, walk the feet in, lie down onto the mat. And once you lie down onto the mat, extend the legs out in front of you, but bring them wider than hip width distance. So maybe closer to the outer edges of the mat. Reach the arms overhead, clasp opposite elbows overhead, which hopefully is a lot easier at this point. You'll take the right foot, cross it over the left foot. So the legs are crossed. Right foot hooked on top of the left. And then take the upper body, lift it up and bring it over to the left. Set the head down, both shoulder blades down. Banana asana. So you're making a shape that's similar to a banana with the body, getting into the whole right side of the body, but hopefully the left too. Sometimes in a week, I'll get hooked on a certain theme or postures, and I'll teach those. So this week we had our yin class on Tuesday, and this flow actually complements that yin class. So it could be a nice one to do sometime soon if you didn't take the yin class. It also would be really nice if you did the yin class and then the flow class following too. That would be great. Maybe not back to back unless you have the time. All right, lift the upper body, bring it back to center. uncross the feet. So right foot comes back over toward the edge of the mat. Clasp opposite elbows the other way. So the opposite forearm is on top. Left foot hooks over on top of the right foot. Lift the upper body, bring the upper body over to the right. Make sure you still have both shoulder blades on the mat, the head resting on the mat, and then you just feel that banana shape in the whole body. Abdomen feels long, sides of the torso. This is a really nice stretch for the body, especially after the work we did today. And if you're wondering what yin is, we did this exact pose in that Tuesday class. You just hold it a little bit longer with less effort. All right, bring the upper body back to center, uncross the feet, reach the arms overhead, get really long on your mat, take a big inhale. On the exhale, bring the arms down by the sides, palms face up. Maybe you lift the chest to get the shoulder blades underneath you, and you're set up for Savasana. Close the eyes, start to let go of that breath control and anything else you don't need. Just coming right into stillness. If you'd prefer to do a seated meditation, now's the time. You'll start to bring your attention and awareness back to the breath, taking a deeper breath in through the nose, softly out of the mouth. Reach the arms overhead, waking up again, feeling all this length you created in the body that you get to take with you into your day. Walk the feet in, bending the legs, rolling over onto your right side. So cradling the head and the arm, unless you're using a pillow. Eyes are still closed. And you start to feel that shift of energy coming from your back onto your side. It's a nice way to slowly come out of Shavasana. press the left hand into the floor in front of you and come up to an easy cross-legged seat to close your practice, or maybe continue on with a meditation. You can turn this off if you are. Sitting up tall with the eyes closed, observing how you feel. Sit bones pressed down. You're rising up through the crown of the head. Tip of the nose points forward and down a little bit. Bring the hands together in front of you. Maintain the lift of the chest as you start to bow the head, taking a moment to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up. Blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks for joining and staying with me. I hope your upper body feels great along with the rest of your body, but that was definitely a lot of work for the upper body. We changed up the vinyasas today, which you can do. So hope that was fun.